Today's project is pretty job specific. I'm going to be building a rolling workbench that's made for the model railroading. I want it to fit in between here so I can store it. It will be completely in here, out of the main part of the shop. So that's all I'm going to show about the railroad layout. But that's what it's for. So I think we'll get to building. I only had to go buy a few things for this project. Pretty much everything else I had, just kicking around the shop. So I picked up some ginormous wheels. It's going to be okay, that's not it. So I got an extra. I'll return that. But there was a few problems. So I picked these all up the first trip. And then I thought, I got back here and I was like, how am I going to secure that underneath the workbench? So I had to go back again and get nuts, bolts, and washers. So I go back in the hardware store and I said, so I bought this. I need nuts. I think I'll buy the nuts now. Then I'll go home. Then I'll come back and I'll buy the washers. Then I'll go back. Guy laughed. He thought that was kind of funny. So these are the only parts. I think it's around $75 for the ones that I'm going to use. I won't be using this one. So I wanted a swivel seat. I'm going to have a swivel seat. They didn't have one, and I could have used either one of these, I guess. Anyway, these wheels are made, they're removable. I can just pull that nut off, pull that out, and I'll put a 2x6 or 2x4 inside of there and just bolt it back on, and then it's fixed. They didn't have this swivel seat hardware, so this will work just as well. I'll mount it. I'll just have to allow for it in height so that I have the height of the workbench seat at the correct height. So that's all the hardware. I had a full sheet of, hold on. I have a full sheet of 1/2-inch plywood that I'm going to use for parts. I have a whole bunch of cutoffs. So it's just going to be using materials that I have here. And I had quite a few 2x4s that have been used for different things. I need to build this because of when I have my knee surgery, I'm going to be out of commission as far as standing for a long time. I want to just be able to have, I need to do something or I'll go stir crazy. Okay, first things first, let's get at it. Again, didn't I just say that? I did, let's do it. The actual width that I want of the workbench right here is exactly 48 inches. So I'm going to add a trim board all the way around here, so that will decrease it 1.5 inches. So that cuts us back to 46.5, and I want some leeway, but not much. I want it to be snug so that when I'm sitting here, I can swivel around. I don't know how much work I'll actually do right here all the time, but I want the ability to be able to swivel around. This will be gone, and reach out here. So I'm going to go with an overall width of 46 inches. That'll give a 1/4 inch play. So it'll be snug, but it'll be loose to move it in and out as needed. So I'm still laying this out in my mind. I decided to go a 1/2 inch, even at another, are you helping? Another 1/2 inch narrower to 45.5 inches. So the other thing, I wanted to find out, just get an idea of what my reach might be. And so I'm kind of, if I have the bench up here, I can easily reach 3 feet. So I'm going to make the depth, the total depth, 3 feet. Total width, it's going to be a triangle. 45.5. So that's going to be, so now I'll draw here, get a triangle made, and we'll cut this one piece out. Oh, I got a B-2 stealth bomber underway. Some assembly required. All right, let's set those. Oh, which one? These are the side pieces. Hey, we don't need that sticker on there. One goes there. So I had already put these together dry just to make sure they fit. And I made a center mark here because I need to do one more cut on both of these. The way I found this angle was I set this piece on here, took my square, even though it's a triangle, set it there. It said, came up with 34 degrees. So on the chop saw, I just cut that at 34. So it would make sense that this one would match the same, typically. So now, because I've already made a mark here, I'm going to go over and cut this on the chop saw. This should be a 45-degree angle off of this cut. I mean a 90, I'm sorry. So I can just set it up against the fence. There's one. There's two. There, everything's set in place. Everything looks good and tight. I'm going to run some 2-inch screws, just a couple in each piece to tack them. Then I'll flip it over and screw it down really well. When I screw these down, I need to bear in mind where this is going to be. I want to make sure it's not going to, that I don't put a screw in the way. That straddles both. This is kind of a weak point in the whole thing when I have, because this is where the bench, it's upside down. This is where the stool is going to be, and there'll be a lot of flexing, especially left and right. But once I bolt these together, it's going to be super strong. Super. It went through a little bit, not too bad. Okay. I'm going to just set this on here so I know where not to screw. I'm all out of 1 5/8" screws, so these are 1 1/4". Pretty sure they're going to work all right. And then because the 2-inch actually came through a little more than what I wanted. So here's the bolt. By the time I put this here, it's too short. I'm going to get, these are 2-inch. Going to run to the hardware store and get 2.5-inch. Be right back. To you, it'll be like, boop! Just a short break in the action. Oh, this is beautiful. It's like the first snow of the season. We've got maybe 1/2 inch. It's not much. And it's actually, it's above freezing. It's 35 degrees, something like that. But the Vardo, it's all ready. And we'll get to see how that roof works. Should be good. The chickens, they're staying inside today. Guess they don't want to be out in the snow. So just a little short break. Let's go back inside. Kaya said she's glad to be inside. She would be outside in the snow, rolling in the snow if I'd let her. Wouldn't I? Wouldn't you? Yeah, you would. Okay, we got to get to work. Let's get building something. Beep. I'm back. 2.5-inch. There's another 10 or 15 cents a piece, something like that. Times, I got 16 of them. So, I need to flip this over and drill some holes. I believe I'm going to run the bolts through this way and run the nuts up on top. Okay, so On my trip to the lumberyard, I had this divine revelation of I did not allow for something, so I've got to adjust. So this is 3 feet. If I make a 3-foot deep bench, how many of you already know what I'm going to say? I don't know. Leave a comment if you knew before I say this. I didn't leave enough room for a stool. Duh. So I will build an extension, which is fine. I want this to be like a tricycle, or what's the motorcycle that's 3-wheel, like that, to be really cool. So it's going to make it even cooler because I'm going to put an extension out here, probably like a 2x6 to mount the seat on, the post that's going to come up. So I'm going to attach these 3 or these 2, flip it over, and then come up with an extension. So that's next. Alrighty. So this is going from a B-52 look, what is it, Stealth, B-52 Stealth, to an F-15, F-16 something. So I calculated from the end of the 3-foot workbench, which is going to be a square up on top, a foot to the center of my butt. And then I went a few extra inches to make sure that it wouldn't split out. And I've drawn a line to center all this. 3-inch screws. My Makita batteries, I think, are on their way out. That was just charged. All right. Now I have to build this down. Okay, and a couple issues they just keep jumping up. I made the filler pieces so that this is all good here. So when this is on here, it'll be the same all the way around. The next thing, though, that I have to allow for is a post. This is upside down, coming down for the seat. So before, I only have bolts long enough to go through these 2. So I'm going to end up countersinking probably the head of the bolt here, so that this will lay flat, because I have to run screws through for the post to go through there. Yeehaw! Lots of thinking. I love it. Okay, so I think I'll secure these together so that I can drill that and get that part done. 2 should do it. Now I'll just get I think I want to countersink it on this side, actually. So I'll do it over here. So, a valuable lesson. If you're going to countersink something, you need to do that first before drilling all the way through, because you lose the point and it'll wander around and it will be ugly. So I'm going to just run them through this way and I'll just suck it down. You know what I'm saying? So I pounded them in quite a bit. They'll suck in the rest of the way after I get this on. I don't like running the bolts through. I like to run them through here, but because sometimes they wander like these did. Okay, so these 2 need to go in just a little more. So it's beginning to take on a little bit of weight. It's not terrible. I mean, somebody of my stature could handle it easily. What do you think, Kaya? She's going to want to ride it. I think I'll just temporarily screw that so I can get my measurements. Need a 2.5 inch. I don't have 2.5, so we'll go with 2. Whoops, sorry, Kaya. Okay. Okay, now some figuring. The seat is just going to be a 14-inch round circle. Circles are round. Ta-da! Progress little by little. So I wanted to use a 6x6. It would have been nice. Didn't have one, so I tripled a 2x4. This is going to become the swivel. This comes right off. So I can put a 2x4 in there, and I'll tighten that, and that will be the base for the seat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this, and I'm going to use some of the headlock screws and screw that baby down. We'll run these in, and then next. What do you think? Looks like a porcupine. I had to angle them in just so they catch good wood. You'd think my life depended on this seat. Took quite a bit of calculating to get everything figured out here. It did. All right. I want to do that. I don't know. I'm thinking I need a shim because it's a pretty good space there. I want this really snug so it doesn't like wibble wobble around, eh? I screwed on another piece of plywood on this side. I made a center mark so that I can get it centered right on there. Like that. That's good and snug. So now I'll drill a hole through here. One way or another. There we go. All right, I got the bolt in there. Got that started. Good, still 17.5. I want to crank that as tight as, I just want it tight, right? Good. All right. So now, I've cut these parts. This is a base for the plywood to sit on. I'll straddle those, get that measurement correct. I'm getting excited. 19 and a 16th. 19. That's close enough. Close enough. I had drawn lines on here, both sides, to make sure I get that centered the same. I will sand this really well because I'm going to be sitting on it and rubbing around. I don't need slivers. All right, time to put a seat on the fighter jet. I'm going to go with it that wide just to help with movement this way. I looked it up, and typically to a seat to the top of a table is about 12 inches. So I'm pretty good right there, 12 and a quarter. And it's going to, when everything's secure, I think I can sit on there fine already. But so now I need to secure this, and this will be the front of the tabletop. So I want to be 12 inches back from there. I'll make a mark, pretty much right there. Perfect. I like that. So now I need to pull the wheel off and get this standing upright so that I can screw through this one into the post. Take this off. There's only one screw holding this together. All right. This should be interesting, screwing this together. A lot of moving parts. That was surprisingly easy. I was expecting the worst. Good job, Kenny. Okay. It's going to have a lot of torque on this one section. So I'm going to screw it off really well. You can help with it. And this will have quite a bit of pressure on it too, so I'll put quite a few screws in this one. Okay. Okay. What on earth did I build? Is this a speed racer? What in the world is this, you may ask? So it's going to be a moving workbench, one that I can just move it over here. I built it specifically for the railroad, or I'm building it. Feels like I'm tipping a little, I don't know. So this won't be here, but I'll be able to sit up tight to there, just sit down, and if I'm working on something on the table, I can get it done, and then I can just, whoop, okay? When I get some weight over there, I don't think it's going to do that, I hope. Yeah, need some weight on that end. Hang on, because this is a building project. Part 1 of the workbench.